Prime Minister there, you can see live visuals on your screens of the Prime Minister taking off from the national capital. He is on his way to Russia. He will land in Russia local time at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's Russian time. The Prime Minister is going on a 2-day visit to Russia. He will be meeting with Vladimir Putin. There is a ceremonial dinner which is going to be taking place later tonight. Many cultural events have also been planned. He will be meeting the Indian diaspora, and that's going to be taking place tomorrow. The Kremlin is talking about this visit, saying that the West is very jealous of this visit, which is why they're closely monitoring this visit of the Prime Minister to Russia. What all is on the agenda? Of course, this is the third bilateral that's taking place in years now, and of course it's the first visit of the Prime Minister since the Ukraine-Russia war. We have Vishal, my colleague, joining us to get us more. Ukraine, is an issue that needs to be discussed. I mean, it was the Prime Minister who took a stand that this is not the era of war. Will the Ukraine topic come up during his 2-day visit in Russia is the big question, Vishal, that everyone is seeking an answer to. Take us through what else is on the agenda.
Sorry, Divya, could you repeat that?
You could take us through if the Ukraine situation is something that's on the agenda when it comes to the Prime Minister's visit, what is on the itinerary when it comes to his 2-day visit?
So the PM is expected to land in Russia about 4 p.m., which is about 7 p.m. India time. He would head straight to a hotel where he would have a dinner with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. So that's what is on the itinerary today. The main meetings are supposed to happen today. The bilaterals are supposed to happen tomorrow actually. So the main action will be tomorrow. The things on agenda, there are two things. The first one is the trade imbalance between both the countries. We've been reporting that there's a record high of the trade between two countries in financial year 2023 and 2024. The trade has reached to about $65 billion a year. However, there's sort of an imbalance there because India only imports about $4 billion worth of trade from Russia. So that needs to be balanced. That would be one of the main topics of discussion. The other one is the Indians who have been duped into fighting for the Russian army in the Russia-Ukraine war. Up until now, about 4 of them have died, reports say, and about 24 Indians are still stuck there who are forced to fight for the Russian army. They need to be taken out. They need to be rescued from there. So these two are the main topics, and there are other global issues such as the Ukraine war itself that would be discussed there. We can recall that about 2 years ago, PM Modi had, in the last in-person meeting with Putin, had said that this is not the era for war. So that statement had created ripples across the globe. India being an ally of Russia, but giving statements like that. So India was highly regarded on the world stage when PM made that statement. So it remains to be seen what kind of statement would come out.
There were a lot of other issues I touched upon, but I don't want to preempt.
So that all of that will be discussed when the meeting actually happens tomorrow.
Vishal, so a lot on the agenda, from defense to energy to oil, and of course trade imbalances to increase economic cooperation. The two countries have redefined, and that has been a historical friendship in the past 10 years, particularly with Prime Minister Modi there. Let's just listen in to what External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has to say about this visit. So, of course, many reactions coming in, whether it is also Kremlin reacting to this visit of the Prime Minister, calling it a very closely monitored visit of the two leaders meeting in Russia. The Kremlin there, of course, we heard Dmitry Peskov talking about how the West is jealous of the two leaders meeting up in Russia. So, of course, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, will that really cast a shadow as far as this bilateral summit is concerned? What are the larger geopolitical undertones of this meeting? Can the two nations carve out a roadmap for the new world order? Of course, the Indians that are stuck in Russia, the Indians stranded in Russia, is going to be on the agenda of this bilateral summit that's going to be taking place. And do remember, this is also coinciding with the time when NATO will be meeting up in Washington. So this is the 22nd Indian-Russian bilateral summit. The Prime Minister will be meeting with Putin. Bilateral talks will be keenly watched around the world. This is his 2-day visit that, he's embarking upon. Of course, the Prime Minister there leaving from India, from the national capital, making his way from here to Russia. Vishal, take us through what all can we expect. I mean, he will be meeting the Indian diaspora. That is planned for tomorrow. He will be meeting up. He has a lot planned for tomorrow as well. But it all begins with a ceremonial dinner that's going to start out today. Cultural programs of song and dance also planned during his visit. But the big question being, as far as the Indians who are stranded in Russia, that is the big question. So, and also if the Prime Minister will be taking on any sort of stand when it comes to Ukraine.
So, as far as the Ukraine war is concerned, India has never really, explicitly criticized Russia when it comes to the war or Putin. But as we mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Modi had in the last meeting, the last in-person meeting with Putin, said that this is not the era for war. So that statement itself could be taken as a criticism for the war. On the other hand, as you mentioned, there are several other issues such as the trade imbalance and the Indians who are stuck in Russia, who are forced to fight for Russia. And the other thing is the oil trade between the both countries. So we have been reporting that India imports about 40% of oil from Russia, which is a huge chunk. So in the last 2-3 years, ever since the Ukraine war started, there were sanctions on Russia which forced it, which had resulted in Russia not being able to export its oil to other countries. However, India and China have been exporting oil from Russia. As we've mentioned, that 40% of the oil that India imports comes from Russia. So it's a huge chunk. And also the fact that India is a long time ally of Russia in terms of defense cooperation. There are several components of the defense that comes from Russia, such as the MiG aircraft, such as other fighter aircraft also. So it remains to be seen what kind of statements would come up in the bilateral, but we would sure bring you the latest.
Right, Vishal, the Prime Minister is also going to be visiting Austria, and he has put out a message on X saying that these visits will be a wonderful opportunity to deepen the ties with these nations. So over the next 3 days, the Prime Minister first in Russia, followed by a visit to Austria.
That is true. So he would head straightway to Austria. So he will be the first Indian PM to visit Austria in the last 40 years. The last time an Indian Prime Minister visited Austria was in 1983. The Austrian Chancellor had taken to Twitter, X actually, to say that Modi will be welcomed, PM Modi will be welcomed in Austria when he lands there. So it's just a one-day visit to Austria, but the main, the concentration of this whole foreign visit will be on Russia when PM Modi lands in Russia at about 6:30 p.m. India time today.